I think it has been a long working day, so it's time to conclude, and we'd like to call Barbara, Kerstiëns, and Tapani Piha for some words of conclusions.
Okay, it has been a long day. I will give a few points linked with the European Commission DG Research perspective. And of course, I will, together with my colleague Tapani, thank the Autorité de santé for the organization, but he will do that much more elaborately than I will. So I'll go straight into it. I think this day has been very good to show how important health technology assessment is, how important it is to have the right methodology for the right device or product, but also how important it is to collaborate across Europe and even beyond Europe. There's so much we can do more efficiently if we do it together. And from a research perspective, we are very happy to be able to fund good quality science, as you've seen the 4 examples of this afternoon. But another reason why it is health technology assessment is important to us, that we're also investing in the research to develop innovative products and services. But developing the product as such is not sufficient. It needs to reach the patient, the end user, and therefore it needs to reach the market. Health technology assessment is important in that process, but even more important also is to have coherent processes within Europe that will help facilitate that process, that access. And I think from the day of today, and I was privileged to attend some of the discussions yesterday, I think Europe is well on the way. And I would encourage everyone here in the room and our member states to continue this collaboration together. And we as research look forward to create new opportunities for funding. The challenges ahead for Europe and the citizens worldwide are enormous, but the potential as well. We have personalized medicine coming up. We have the whole opportunities provided to big data. So we need to make the best use of our resources to use and promote the use of science to develop these innovative products and services, but also to go into the further push to organize our health services in such a way that they provide quality and safe care. So to end, I will say we are all for open innovation, meaning bringing stakeholders together to develop something new. We push for open science, making data accessible and shareable within Europe and beyond. And we're open to the world, and the world starts within Europe, collaboration between stakeholders here, our different member states, and then extending beyond it. Thank you.
I think that Barbara was very right. We have had a rich and full day. And the discussion has ranged from HTA methods to policy making. And if you are overwhelmed with all that, I picked up 5 points you can take home. The first was this idea, which was at the beginning of the seminar, that how to maintain the independence of regulatory, HTA, and decision makers. Especially in a small country where there are few people who are knowledgeable about these things, the European collaboration might help by pooling resources so that the same people don't need to be involved in all stages of the decision-making process. The second point, just said in a previous panel, the technologies are getting more complex and more difficult to assess. And again, I do believe that the European collaboration helps to cope with that kind of situation, because then we can again pool resources, skills and knowledge so that all countries can benefit, big or small. The third point is that we had a very good session on medical devices and complex technologies. They are important in the EU health technology assessment cooperation. Yesterday, the Health Technology Assessment Network reminded us that they call for a broad scope of this cooperation. The fourth point is that we learned that involving stakeholders is not easy, but it can be done, and there are good models. And by learning from those good models, we can do the stakeholder involvement in a proper way, and especially those stakeholders who are have lesser resources in participating collaboration. And the last point comes from the panel 3 again, very rich panel. It was that how to health technology assessors, they can inform decision makers so that the results which we are having from assessments, they get into proper use. The third stage of UNETA collaboration, which is being discussed and negotiated as we are sitting here, they need to very much think about how this sound clinical evidence will be turned to underpin decision making. And for the Joint Action 3, I would give 3 keywords to remember: quality, producing value, and the reuse of assessments. Quality, producing value, and reuse of assessments. And finally, I would like to take you back to the future. I cannot quite take you to the scene of that famous film where they are waiting for the lightning to strike the church tower to get electricity. But I would give a nearly equally exciting scene, which is the policy making in Brussels for Europe. The directive on patient rights in cross-border care calls for setting up a sustainable mechanism for EU health technology assessment cooperation. This work is already ongoing in the network and in the UNETA. They are working on the political solutions and practical solutions for such cooperation. And in order to support this week, the Commission has adopted 2 major documents which will help on this path. Those documents call and promise further action by the Commission. The first document was the work plan for 2016, which obliges us in our unit to consult widely on the next steps on the strengthening of the EU cooperation. And then a second important document adopted on Wednesday was single market strategy. And in that strategy, which one of these 10 single market strategies, one of the 10 key points of President Juncker, in that document the Commission is committing to introduce an initiative on health technology assessment, in particular for health products. The Commission, the HTA network and the UNETA, we cannot do these things alone. We cannot create the future alone. And therefore I'm calling all of you in this room, the whole HTA community, to help in building that one. The HTA network has had a practice of having 2 meetings a year. One meeting, the autumn meeting, taking place in a member state. And yesterday, indeed, we were hosted here in Autorité, having our meeting. Thank you very much for that. It was very pleasant and successful meeting. But here in Paris, you actually got better, because you organized such a great celebration for us. That's not the normal practice, but we are very grateful for that. And I think that this meeting and the conference wouldn't have been possible without the efforts by you, Professor Jean-Luc Harousseau, by our member of the team, François Meyer, and Isabelle Desalles, and all their team. So many thanks for these well-organized events.
Well, I think that I have nothing to add after these 2 conclusions, except maybe one personal thought. Until now, health technology assessment has mainly focused on clinical efficacy or clinical effectiveness or cost effectiveness. But we have heard today that there are other dimensions, especially dimensions from the patients living with the disease, how they receive the treatments. And patients were present all day long. So I think that one of the important messages after this working day is that we should involve more. That is already done in some countries, already done at the European network level. You should involve more patients and, by the way, other stakeholders. So to finish, this has been said by my two co-conclusion chair. This has been a long and rich day. However, maybe some of you remain frustrated because they would have loved to learn more, that still have questions. So I have an important announcement. We have heard today that they will have the opportunity of learning more in one of the meetings that have been announced today and that you should attend if you are interested. There are some of them in the next few weeks. Finally, of course, I would like to thank the speakers and the panelists. I personally think that the presentation and discussion were not only interesting but very fruitful for the future. I would like to thank, of course, again, the European Commission, to thank François for setting up this meeting, and to thank the HAS staff for the practical and logistical organization in coordination with European Commission staff. And I would like to thank you all for being here until 4:45 p.m. Thank you very much. Have a safe trip back and good weekend.